Well, good morning, coffee breakers, and welcome to 2024. I know we're a few days into it already. This is my first opportunity to officially say Happy New Year and welcome to 2024. And as we often do when we enter a new year, it's interesting and fun and a little bit nostalgic sometimes to look back on the year that we just passed through and do a little bit of remember that moment. And oh yeah, I can recall when that happened. We're going to do a little bit of that today with coffee breaks episodes. And so I want you to just put on the brakes, grab your cup of coffee, and join the conversation, because it is time for Coffee Breaks with Steve. And I love the fact that the conversation has already been going on online. So good morning, Shalane. Good morning, Corey Ann. Good morning, Kim. Good morning. Kathy Garlick is on here. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Jerry Zetterval, Rick Venturi. I see you all here. Good to see you. And once again, Happy New Year. Welcome to the first episode of Coffee Breaks with Steve for 2024. It seems, it was interesting. It seems like it's been forever. We took 1 week off for our Christmas festivities here with family, but we had had several breaks leading up to that. And so it just feels I'm trying to get back into the groove. It's one of my, no, I don't make New Year's resolutions, but I'm committed to getting into the groove this year. I don't know exactly what that means yet, but we're going to do it. Hey, Jason, good to see you. And I'll set the coffee cup down for a second so my fingers are free to move the mouse around. I hope everybody had a great holiday season. I hope you had a great Christmas and New Year. If you celebrate other than that, maybe you celebrate Hanukkah or Kwanzaa, or simply go outside and dance in the snow and the solstice. I hope you enjoyed yourself. It's actually been snowing here this morning. Carol has already left for her next business trip to Rhode Island. She left January 2nd, day after New Year. And while we still had family in town, so I had to play the part of host and entertainer, and I never mind doing that. It's just things become more chaotic when it's me. But I'm supposed to leave this coming Thursday to fly out to Rhode Island to join her. But the current weather forecast is showing potentially quite a bit of snow, and snow falling on that morning when I'm supposed to be leaving. We'll see if that causes any delays with the airlines. But anyway, hopefully I'll get there. And they're getting a little bit of winter weather right now. It's interesting because there's been a lot of talk about major storms going through New England and the East Coast, mid-Atlantic states. And at least in Rhode Island, it's going to be relatively mild. And I looked at the forecast in Providence, Rhode Island, where Carol is, and I looked at the forecast here. And it's like, we're getting a lot more snow if these are accurate. So it's going to be fun one way or another. I don't mind the snow. I just hope it doesn't interfere with my travels. That's my only caveat to that. So let's see. How's everybody doing? I do want to, yeah, Shalane says 2024 feels like 2020 was yesterday. That's an entirely different topic about, at least for me, what COVID did to my state of mind regarding the years. It's like 2020 was a Twilight Zone year. Kathy Garlick says, I look like a wizard. I am a wizard. I'm a let's get this live stream on the air wizard, at least, hopefully. But yes, so let's see what else is going on here. Okay, I want to talk about our sweet and savory. So let me go ahead and bring that up onto the screen here. Hey, look, I did it. Sometimes the magic works. Sweet and savory for this first week. First of all, this one, I like to find the kind of the good news, interesting and fun things that are happening in the news, because that isn't always the case. But I liked this story, and part of this comes from my own background working, not only working in nonprofits, but I worked with a couple of animal shelters. And so this one I thought was cool. You may have heard about this. This is for the first time in 47 years. The Adams County, Pennsylvania SPCA kennels are empty because all of its animals have been adopted and all of the strays reunited with their families. The kennels were nearly full 2 weeks ago, and now there are no dogs remaining and only one cat that came in as a stray, according to the animal shelter. The organization wrote on their Facebook page, I believe this is the first time in 47 years that the Adams County SPCA is empty, let alone at Christmas time. It's a true miracle. To say that we're beyond excited is an understatement. The staff and volunteers have worked very hard to take care of the animals in our care and to make sure they got adopted to the right home. So I thought that was cool that happened, and congratulations and well done to the Adams County SPCA. Appreciate what you do. This is another feel-good story. This guy is named Kevin Ford, and he's worked for Burger King for 27 years. And there was a thing that went viral like a couple of years ago, 2022, when Burger King acknowledged him and gave him some gifts because in the 27 years he had never missed a shift. And so they honored him and gave him some small gifts. Well, it went viral, and he ended up on the Today Show about it back then. And he talked about the fact that, all he wanted to do was make a good living for himself and be dedicated to the work that he was supposed to be doing. So he hadn't missed a shift, 27 years not missing a shift. There were times when I couldn't go 27 days without missing a shift, right, in my career. So his daughter started a GoFundMe in his honor. It has raised nearly $450,000 to date. And he has, as a result, Mr. Kevin Ford, this Burger King employee who's just been dedicated to his job, just bought his first house. And he posted online and actually posted a video, I think on TikTok, where he showed the house, walked through the house and showed how nice it is inside. And he says that all he really wants to do is to have space for his kids and his grandkids to be able to come and visit him. My kids, I think, will appreciate this because there's an inside joke that goes with it. This house is in Pahrump, Nevada. His house is in Pahrump, Nevada. And he's still receiving donations on the site. And he says that hopefully this continues to build. Maybe someday he'll set up his own little restaurant, have his own little business too. But just congratulations to Kevin Ford for just, I don't know, the dedication, the inspiration, and being appropriately rewarded for such a fantastic work ethic. So yeah, I thought that one was cool too. Let's see, where else? I again just wanted to mention again the thank you to all of you out there for giving me and giving my family an opportunity to take some time just for us. While last Saturday, which would have been right during this time, was when our family was all together. This picture was taken on last Saturday morning. What we tend to do is we let our family members all do their own Christmas as family or get together with the in-laws or whatever they need to do or want to do, so that we're not conflicting. We're not constantly playing the game of, are you going to be at our house for Christmas this year? Are you going to stay home? Are you going to be at the in-laws' house? Are you going to be someplace else? We let everybody have their Christmas, and then we get together the following week. Everybody drifted in from the 25th on in till the 29th, I think. We had family coming in. And then on last Saturday, we went through all of the things that families go through on Christmas. We had stockings on the tree or on the fireplace hearth, and we had the presents under the tree, and Santa Claus had made his appearance, and the kids all got all the goodies. And we spent the entire day just celebrating the giving and the receiving of Christmas. So thank you for letting us do that. I saw a comment earlier. Wait a minute. What's this conversation? I look away and, face the only way. It's Carissa. That's the other thing. I tried doing something, and this may not be the best representation of what we looked like, because I was mostly looking at the kids' faces, and in every other shot, Remy looked like an ogre. But I tried something different this year in taking the family photo. I did it in video format so that I could more easily go through and pick out a frame and screenshot it. And yeah, I'm sorry, Carissa. You'll also notice that part of Christopher's face and part of Jason's face are covered up by antlers and other headgear. So yeah, we'll look for a better screenshot before we start posting this in memory books and stuff. Anyway, also wanted to mention, I saw this in the comments a few minutes ago, but I think we should formally say happy birthday to Corey Ann. Today is Corey Ann's birthday. Hey, happy birthday, Corey Ann. I'm glad you're here. And congratulations on making it this far. Know the feeling, 65. That's a landmark. That's a milestone birthday for all of us. So congratulations. And I'm glad you're here to celebrate with us today. Hopefully you got, the celebration beyond this. This isn't the only celebration, but I'm glad you're here for part of it at least. Do you have a special day that we missed, that I missed? I didn't have your birthday on the calendar. I didn't put you on the list. I didn't mention your wedding anniversary or your bar mitzvah happening or whatever else. Let us know in the chat right now so that we can celebrate with you. And also, if you got a day coming up, maybe later in the month of January or maybe even in the coming months, and you want to make sure we know about it so we can include it, you can send me an email at cbwsteve@comcast.net. I will receive that, should receive that if the email is working properly. And we'll make sure you are on the list for that. So, all right. Woo, let me tell you some things here. I have been going back and poring over, not poor, not poor is one of those words. What do they call those? There's a name for it, and I haven't had enough coffee. One of you out there is going to know, where the words all sound the same when you say them out loud, but they're spelled differently and they mean different things, like two, and two, or there, and there. Poor, and poor is one of those. I guess you can get technical and say poor for someone who doesn't have money. But when you're just saying them, they all sound the same. All right, somebody remind me what that. I'm curious as to, I missed part of this. Oh, okay. It's people making comments about my shirt, I think, and the lighting. So yeah, I am a wizard. I am lit up like an orb. It's all true. Talk a little bit about this last year. 2023 was an interesting, amazing year, really, for doing coffee breaks for a variety of reasons. Really, up until the fall and up until Carol and I, or I guess maybe late summer, when Carol and I started traveling to the East Coast on an off and on basis, regular basis, because of her contract work there. And during the first part of that, because of things that we were doing on the weekends and just the time difference on the East Coast, when I chose to take some breaks, do a coffee break for a couple of weeks and then 2 or 3 weeks where I wasn't doing it either because I was on the East Coast or I was traveling to or from. And up until that point, though, it was a very robust year for coffee breaks. We had a lot of great topics and episodes. We had a lot of great guests. And it was interesting to go back and review that. I keep a running list of things there. I have a spreadsheet. Yes, there is a spreadsheet. I have a spreadsheet where I track the guests and the topics and the dates that people were on and other notes about it. And part of that is so that I can just keep track of who's been on, but also what's coming up, because I also plan that ahead. And it's also interesting just to go back and review that. And there was a wow moment for me. I mean, I've seen the spreadsheet regularly throughout the year, but just to go back and look at it as a snapshot was a bit humbling, because I think about the fact that the guests who come on coffee breaks don't need to take the time to be here. You as participants, you as the people who join me at this virtual coffee table, you don't have to take the time to be here. So it's important, I think, for you to know, for people to know, I don't take it for granted. And when I had an opportunity to go back and look at the list, it was really extraordinary. And some are repeats. You know, you have people who are on more than one time over the course of time, and even in the course of a year. But a lot of people were introduced to me this year. I reached out to them and just invited them to come on cold. People who had no reason to think that coming on Coffee Breaks with Steve was something that they should make a priority, and yet they did. I've got video highlights, and these are just moments from some of the people who were on, some of the interesting people who came, and some of the things they said. And it was just a reminder of who some of these people were and what they did. But also maybe a reminder to say, oh, you know, you could go back either on YouTube or Facebook if you missed one of these, or if you went, oh yeah, I wanted to watch that one again. It's kind of a reminder to go back and do it. But it is just highlights of what we all encountered. And hopefully my video is going to work here and all of the switching back and forth. But in fact, I'm going to go ahead and switch this off, that little logo in the background, so it doesn't create any distraction. But the first one, and this kind of going in chronological order, and again, this doesn't include every episode and every guest who was on. It's a reminder of some of the highlights. But the first one, you may remember Addie Grow, who is an HR and recruiting specialist, and she's been on a couple of times. She came on very early in 2023 to talk about how to make the most out of your interview. If you're interviewing for a job, how do you prepare? How do you present yourself best? And so just a little reminder of our time with Addie Grow. What are the most important things from your perspective, the most important things an applicant can do to prepare for an interview, and the most important things they should be doing during the interview?
Yeah, so the first part in preparation, I knew a guy who he really wanted a job with Google. And he literally, by the time he had finished preparing for his interview, he had like 25 to 30 pages of notes, thoughts, ideas, things that he just wanted to write down so that he retained the information, right? Questions he had. He had prepared so much that, I mean, of course he got the job, but that's one level. I don't think you have to go that far, but you should be really familiar with the organization. And I think if you want to impress the hiring team, you should have bigger picture thoughts, questions, ideas about the industry. Hey, I've been paying attention to the industry. It's moving in this direction. What is your organization thinking about? Right? Those are great, easy questions if you've actually done the research and you know what you're talking about. And it shows curiosity, hunger for the field.
Yeah, Addie's one of those people, and hopefully we'll have her back again. And Shalane's mentioning that her husband Dustin had an opportunity to connect with Addie, and she actually helped him prepare for applying for and interviewing for and getting the job he currently has. And all of that happened last year too. So, you know, we get people who come on the show who bring these levels and areas of expertise that I find it fascinating. I find it informative. And some of the people who come on here aren't necessarily people like Addie who have an expertise in a professional area, but I think they're fascinating people. And we also had an opportunity, a little over a year ago, in the late fall of 2022, Carol and I had been in New York, and we attended a show called Cast Party, Jim Caruso's Cast Party at Birdland, the famous jazz club. And afterwards, I went up and just took a chance to introduce myself to Jim Caruso himself, who hosts it, who has a fantastic, amazing background as a producer, as a singer, as it's accompanied people like Liza Minnelli and worked directly with them. And I just went up and introduced myself to Jim and gave him my card and asked him if he'd be willing to consider being on Coffee Breaks. He said, sure. And a few weeks later, he was on. And Carol and I had the opportunity last month to go back to New York and to go back to Birdland and see Jim again. And I actually had one of my bucket list item moments when I had the opportunity. Cast Party is an open mic, and most of the people getting up to sing at Cast Party with the live band are professionals in some fashion or another, or they're up and coming people who are trying to become professionals, trying to make their living as entertainers. Not me, but it's open mic, and I was able to get up on stage at Jim Caruso's Cast Party and sing with the live band. And so this was Jim Caruso when he joined us a year ago on Coffee Breaks.
We started it many years ago at another now defunct nightclub, kind of as a fluke. I never expected this to be anything. I just threw a party and all my friends showed up and we sang around the piano until the wee hours. And the next day the nightclub called and said, would you do that every Monday?
Oh my gosh.
Because of course in New York, Monday is everybody's dark night in the theater. And I said, no, what? Huh? And they said, just try it, see if anybody shows up. So I did, and they did. And it's literally been happening every single Monday for 20 years, except once I was in the hospital. I was really sick about 10 years ago. And when I was on the road with Liza, I missed a few, but I still had somebody guest hosting. So we didn't really miss those. So we've missed in 20 years about 3 or 4 weeks of Cast Party.
And you think a fascinating story, fascinating individual. And again, I'm humbled when people like Jim Caruso will take the time to. Corey Ann asked if yes, there are a couple of videos that exist that do exist. I'm not going to be showing them here for a couple of reasons. One is copyright. The song that I sang is a published and copyrighted song, and there are conditions that you can post things online and show an entire song. The other is, it's funny because even doing this, I am not a big fan of going back and watching myself on camera, and particularly listening, going back and watching. I'm fine getting up and doing the thing. I just don't like to go back and watch myself. But I'm willing to consider sharing it offline if anybody demands to see it. We'll make those arrangements. You can again reach out to me at cbwsteve@comcast.net or private message me, and I'll see what I can do. I'm not making any promises, but there do exist some videos of that. But yeah, I also want to say hi, Dee Dee. Dee Dee Kiso has joined us here this morning. Good morning, Dee Dee, and Happy New Year. And next person that I wanted to remind us of are people. It was a couple, Whitney and Brandon Kaywood, a married couple who have a son who they discovered had sensitivity to food dyes. And they have been in the process of making a documentary about this. And it's the first time, although Brandon Kaywood has a background in doing video and film, this was their first big venture, and they are continuing to get this thing ready to be marketed. But we had a little conversation with Whitney and Brandon Kaywood about their documentary film, To Die For.
When we started it, we thought it would be, something small, and we had no idea who we would interview or how we would go about finding people to talk. But it's kind of evolved into this thing where we're interviewing the leading researchers in the world on this topic, and
literally our A team, like everyone that we wanted, starting with Emily, which is your good friend. All of our A team is literally our cast. Like it's been a God thing, like the whole way through. And obviously we were equipped to do it in terms of equipment, like literally equipped, and then our talents. It just it lined up really well. So it's been crazy to see it come together.
Yeah, I love when this is going to. I don't want this to sound patronizing in any way. I love when people with an accent. When I get to have conversations, and with Whitney and Brandon, it's their Southern accent. I've had other people on the show who are from other countries and have an accent, and I'm always fascinated by it. But because I've done acting in the past, there's this tendency to hear an accent and then your brain says, "Ooh, I should try to imitate that," and it happens subconsciously. I always have to fight the subconscious urge to start talking like the people I'm listening to. Anyway, we're hoping that Whitney and Brandon have made great progress there. I think they're actually now fully in post-production, and the early marketing efforts for their documentary. So we hope to have them back and or to be able to show some updates and preview of their documentary before too much time passes on here. I also want to say I saw that Jerry Thompson had joined us. So good morning to you, Jerry. Sorry, I didn't catch that until a couple of minutes ago. Jonathan Siegel. Jonathan is funny, talented, amazing. He's a friend, and he is also a creative genius when it comes to any number of things, but especially music. And last year, Jonathan joined us to talk about the musical he had written, family musical he had written, called Space Vacation, about a family of aliens traveling to another planet on their vacation. And he shared some of the music, and this was a bit of our conversation with Jonathan last year.
Anybody in the world can access this site. The trick is to get the people I want to access the site to access the site. So I've been sending it out to film people, TV people, Netflix, a lot of Broadway and off-Broadway stuff, just anybody in the creative part of the business. But my goal, I always envisioned it as a Broadway show. Carol likes to make fun of me because I'm not a dancer, but I've got like choreography for every one of these songs. I can't help it, you know. And I always saw it as a show, and it drove me crazy because I see it with the lighting, and I see the whole thing viscerally in my head.
Yeah.
And how do I get it to other people? The closest I could do was this album. But over the last few years, people said to me, hey, it would make a great animated film or a great series or a great live action sci-fi film. So, you know, I'm open to the universe. That's what it's about.
The other thing that's fun, this last one wasn't so dramatic, but the other thing I find interesting and funny is to look at over the course of the year how my hairstyle and even facial hair change. But Jonathan's another, as you could tell from the way Jonathan talks, he's a New Yorker, native New Yorker. And we were back in New York. When we were back in New York this last month, we had an opportunity to get together with Jonathan and his wife, Carol, he was referring to, and have dinner with them and catch up on things. And hopefully, you know, continuing to monitor with Jonathan the progress that he's making in getting some recognition for his musical and trying to get it in front of the right people. So hopefully that's going to continue. We'll keep you posted on that. But I invite you to go out. Anybody who wants it, message me or email me, and I can get you the link to hear the entire album. Jonathan's got it online. And if you go back and watch that episode, he shares that link and everything with it. When we were there was sort of this pattern that when we were in New York in the fall of 2022, met people, and I contacted and connected with some people who I thought would make interesting guests. And another one from that New York visit is a young lady by the name of Izzy Stein, who is an amazing performer. I've continued to track Izzy's path, and actually she has become a good friend as well. And we had an opportunity to spend time with Izzy when we were in New York last month, dinner, and went and saw her perform. She was actually at Birdland, was one of the people who video recorded me singing. And she sang that night, and I would never attempt to compete with her on a vocal skills level. But Izzy is another one of those people who I think her story is very fascinating. And she shared some of that with us when she was on Coffee Breaks.
I mean, it was kind of like Broadway or bust for a while. And then like when Broadway closed, I was kind of challenged to think outside the box because I wanted to keep performing. I didn't want to just wait for things to open up. And I kind of found in this different path, like more freedom, and also just, I mean, with Broadway, it's like you do the same show 8 times a week, which is wonderful. And that's like such an art form and a craft in itself. But I love being able to do completely different things, like, you know, maybe even not 8, like, you know, as many times as I can a week.
Izzy has is one of those artists who you listen to her sing and you kind of go, really? She hasn't yet made it big time. But, you know, there's so much great talent in the world, and it's a competition constantly. But I have confidence that Izzy Stein, you're going to be hearing her name a lot more in years to come. I really feel that. Katie Truesdell has been on the show a couple of times. She is a lady who owns a very, it's an interesting, I think, a unique travel agency. And her travel agency specializes in working with people, getting a lot of information, and then setting up surprise and mystery vacations. And it's called Magical Mystery Tours. And we had Katie on a couple of years, 2 or 3 years back, to talk about Magical Mystery Tours, but she's an expert in the field of travel and tourism. And so we also had her back just talk about, as people are getting back out post-COVID, what are some things they need to know in general about travel? We talked about a variety of things, including issues around making sure that your passport is up to date. Here was part of our conversation with Katie.
Yeah, if people haven't traveled internationally in a few years, they may not remember when their passport expires, and not everyone always knows about the 6-month validity rule. So basically, if your trip, you come home on April 30th and your passport is only valid through May 15th, a lot of places that's not going to work. You have to have 6 months validity past your trip. So that is a last minute thing you would have to deal with. That is just, it's not going to be fun. So check your passport before you make any plans, for sure.
Yeah, another one, and I see a couple of people, I think Shalane mentioned on here, is that she and Dustin have thought about doing Magical Mystery Tours. Carol and I have talked about it too. But Katie's just amazing to talk to and to learn from, as are so many people who come on here. Derek Nelson, musician, producer, songwriter, singer. As a background, he was the guitar player in the background in many episodes of Glee. He and his siblings used to tour together. I first met Derek when I was working at the Bankhead Theater in Livermore, and he and his siblings performed under the name Derek Nelson and Family. Were there and actually did workshops with young people. But Derek's just, he's a fascinating and energetic guy. He's been with us a couple of times as well, and this was his last visit with us.
Suddenly, I had an opportunity to partner with other artists and other musicians who didn't necessarily know how to put a band together, how to book studio time, what goes into producing, recording, mixing, mastering. Well, those are all things that I love to do. So to be able to expand my own skills as a musician to help other people create music that they love and get it out there in the world became my new purpose. And with that comes a lot of different creative projects. And so it became very project to project for me.
Yeah, and again, continuing to follow Derek's path as he is teaching and he is helping others become better in their musical skills as well. If you were around beginning of April, you will never forget our April Fool's Day episode. We set it up very straight, said it was going to be about finding our identity. And all I'm going to say is this is what you tuned in to and saw that day.
Who do you think you would be if you had the trappings of our current society thrown off for whatever reason? Maybe zombie apocalypse, right? Yes. And you're the only one left, so you become whoever you are going to be. What would that look like for you, Steve?
Great question, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
My initial reaction to that is, even in a multiverse, boy, I want to be Steve. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That one was hilarious, and it was fun to go back and rewatch that episode while I was preparing this, and again see the comments and how everybody in the background, all of you, because you didn't know what was going to be happening until it was happening. and how many people just jumped in and got in the spirit of the thing. But my thanks to Shalane and my brother Scott, who were more than willing to get in there to impersonate me and to make that a very, very fun episode. We've also had, beyond trying to be funny ourselves, we've had some funny people on. Rick Venturi, who was on here, was one of the people who followed through when I said, if you know a topic or you know someone, and introduced me to someone he knows by the name of Leanne Joshua, who is a comedian and an expert on humor, who does workshops and teaches people how to utilize humor effectively in their work and in their lives. And so we had Leanne on the show, and she shared some things that, I mean, it was hilarious, but she also shared some things that were very thought-provoking.
So I tell people that you should set a goal of laughing it out loud at least once an hour, whether anything is funny or not.
Oh,
it's using the physiological action of laughter to get the benefits of laughter, because sometimes we're in situations, for example, if you're alone, if you live alone, or you prefer to live alone like I do, we tend to laugh less when we're by ourselves because we don't have the social function of laughter.
Right.
You need to train yourself when you're watching something or reading something, or hearing something humorous, to laugh.
I still need to practice that one. I think that laughter is an active part of my life, but I don't always remember to just laugh out loud all the time on my own. I say and do funny things when I'm home alone, but I don't necessarily laugh out loud. And I think what a great medicine, what a great wellness formula that is, isn't it? We had authors on the show last year several times who were introduced to us again by people who said, this is someone you should get to know. One of them was a lady by the name of Eve Schaub, who wrote a book, was just releasing her newest book called Year of No Garbage, and talking about the journey that she and her family took to completely eliminate waste for an entire year from their lives. And it was interesting to talk to and to hear from Eve about that journey that she and her family went through.
And so right away, I was thinking, oh, how hard could it really be? I mean, we have a recycling container and we can put so many things in it. We can put in all of those normal suspects, the glass, the paper, the cardboard, what have you. And our garbage service provider accepted plastics number 1 through 7. So that's the resin identification code that's in the little chasing arrow triangle on the bottom of almost all plastic packaging. Yep. And I thought, well, 1 through 7, that covers a whole lot. How much more could there be? So much more.
Yeah. So much more. I actually had the opportunity to read Eve's book, Year of No Garbage, and she's written a couple of other books as well. And I don't know if she's working on any more right now, but they did another experiment with her family, was the Year of No Sugar. She wrote a book about that, where they completely eliminated sugar from their diets for an entire year. And the year of, I may get this one wrong, Year of No Clutter. I think she eliminated clutter from her life for a year. But I have all 3 of the books, and I've completely read 2 of them and started third among my other reading. One of the most, I think, fun and moving episodes to create and to show last year was one that I did with my own wife, Carol, and her best friend, Jody. And we talked about what friendship is all about. And they've been friends for better than 2 decades now. And so to put them in and they were in the same room, we sat at Jody and her husband Scott's dining room table and just videoed a conversation between these 2 wonderful ladies.
Yeah, friends for 25 years before we moved away, and we had already established that friendship.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like family by that point. You still go visit family. And we just did.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why we still give you a hard time about it. Just saying.
I know.
Like,
you'll never
no,
let
you
us live
could
it down.
Right? No, we won't.
I have a house. There's a house for sale right there.
Next door, right there.
Why aren't you
Just
there?
They are fun to watch when they're together because it is a sisterhood that exists between the two of them, and it was fun to create that episode. Yeah, it's been a long time. It's been better than actually we've known Scott and Jody for better than 3 decades, going on 4. Actually better. I think we've known them for better than 4 decades now, we figured out. And Carol and Jody became besties over the course of that time. But anyway, yes. Another person who I was introduced to in the last year or so is an actress by the name of Alexis Cara Gervais. Professionally, she goes just by Alexis Cara. You can look her up on IMDb. She's done a lot of television and movies, and has also appeared on stage. But Alexis is another one of those people. There's no pretense when you talk to her. She's just upfront about her life and who she is. I've gotten to know Alexis and her business partner, Chrissy, over the last couple of years and working with them on some nonprofit things that they're doing. But it was fun to spend the time just talking to Alexis about her career.
I think the thought of having the career kind of didn't really happen until high school, when I started to take it a little bit more seriously and training in it. And then, of course, as soon as you start taking it more seriously in the training, that's when all the stuff in your head starts to happen. Where, am I good enough?
Mm-hmm.
Which comes along with the teenage angst years. And so, so I think in high school is when it really dawned on me. And then I was fortunate enough to go to a school that fostered the arts. But I have a BA in theater studies from Yale. So the place, it was just such an incredible environment of people who were creating things and having dialogues about things. And there was just so much access and opportunity that's where everything really just kind of solidified for me. And I thought, I've got to try to go for this.
Yeah, Alexis is cool. I think you saw some things. Did Shalane mention it on here? Yes, that she is also connected. Shalane has connected with Alexis. Excuse me, more coffee. And Alexis is currently acting as a mentor for her as Shalane is looking to move forward in her own acting career. So it's always fun as the relationships also expand and become, move beyond some central point. Hang on. Shalane, thank you for making sure everybody drinks. Yes, indeed. There was also a guest on here, another one that I was introduced to by a third party, who is a sound engineer, Rob Roy, sound engineer that he and his team have been working on and have now developed and are in the process of marketing a new revolutionary device that is designed to provide hearing protection for people professionally and also in casual settings, in settings outside of the workplace, to protect hearing while providing safety, still being able to hear environmental noises, but protecting from too many decibels. And we had Rob Roy, sound engineer, on the phone, and I was actually wearing the device while we were having the conversation.
So on the recreational side, another one that I on the airplane, using this on the airplane is a great a device to use for travelers. It's funny at the back to the concert things. We have a lot of crews that actually use this, the stage hands and stuff that use this, so they can go back and during their work and time while the concert's going on. We've had a lot of feedback from people at race events, like race cars and things like that, because it's so loud in the grandstands, or those that are lucky enough to be in the center of an oval race. But a lot of those, joggers, runners, obviously hunters, those that enjoy going to shooting ranges and things like that.
It's been cool. I've continued. They were kind enough to actually send me and let me keep a And Shalane's asking, how often have I used the device? I don't typically use it here, but I have used it in other settings. Where I need to remember to do it is like going to church, where sometimes they have the worship music turned way up loud. But I've used it in several settings, just out and about, just to see exactly how well it does work. And it does, and it is very effective. I know we're running to the end of our time. We've got a few more of these, and I hope you can stick with us because it is fun to go back. Another author who joined us, Kate McGovern, is a children's and young adults author, and she's talking about some of the books she's just published, but also about her journey in making decisions about what she wants to publish, what she wants to write for young readers, and why she thinks it's important.
I think children are they're asking these questions and they're interested in these topics. And sometimes as a parent, I think I don't have kids this age yet, but I imagine, and I already know from my own 6-year-old bringing up challenging topics, that it can be hard as a parent to sort of know how to answer some of these big life or death questions. And so books are, and my books, I think, are included in this. Books can be a way into some of those conversations for kids. I think that, the first 2 books in particular for teens have just a lot of space for kids to kind of read and also ask themselves, like, what would I do in this situation?
Fascinating thought process. Sean Cullen Carroll joined us last year, a businessman and entrepreneur who also jumped in at the age of 40 to becoming a professional actor. And he's balanced both business and his acting. And he talked to us a little bit about finding a path to doing more than one thing in life and balancing that out.
Never being afraid to be something outside of a particular box. It's okay to belong to multiple boxes at the same time. Professionally, within your organization, we are human beings having a human experience. Human beings are not meant to be one thing. It would be a pretty boring existence if all we were known for was our job, or if all we were known for was one thing we said 20 years ago. So I think one of the things I'm most proud of is just the both and philosophy, that I can be a professional performer and a damn good business person.
Yeah. And he seems to do well at both. One of the more popular episodes last year, and it surprised me because I don't always know what's going to resonate with others. I know what I like, but I'm not always positive ahead of time what's going to resonate. But we had an attorney on, Christina Matson, who is an estate planning attorney, talking about the importance of the various things that should be part of our long-term planning, and even shared some of her own personal experiences in making sure that some of those things were in place.
Like I said, really think that the power of attorney documents are the most important document you can get done. I can tell you from personal experience, when my mom, she had advanced dementia, and when the rubber hit the road, I needed those documents to be able to help her. I got to the point, I think I had to show them daily for a few weeks until we got her the right care. It was at the point where I kept those documents in my car.
And by the way, Christina Matson is licensed in the state of Washington. If you live in the state of Washington, you need to talk to an estate planning attorney. I can recommend her personally. Later in the year, we're getting down toward the last part of the year with some of these chronologically, but our dear friend who was on here, Kim Baker, joined me to talk about something extremely fascinating, synesthesia, which Kim has. She's probably seeing the things that we're posting in different colors right now, but a fantastic guest co-host who I not only hope to have back, I will have her back on the show, because she was a lot of fun and she's just an amazing and awesome person.
We only learned about it in the early 2000s, information age, right? Like you can Google anything. But apparently some authors, musicians, composers from as far back as the 1600s are suspected of having had synesthesia. And so a lot of people are, they're put in a box like, oh my gosh, you're seeing colors, something's wrong with you. And to be fair, it is considered a neurodivergent, not disorder, but a neurodivergent phenomenon because your brain is connecting senses that aren't usually connected.
Kim, you are awesome. And I'm glad that you are a part of our Coffee Breaks family, but I'm also glad that you are part of our family as one of our. Carol and I have a tendency just kind of like we adopt young people. Not formally, like we don't have paperwork on it, but they become part of the family. And Kim is one of those. Trying to wrap this up here, but another one that surprised me because the topic is not necessarily an exciting one, talking about money and financial planning and that type of thing. And we had an expert on the topic, Chris Gervais. And if that name sounds familiar, yes, that is Alexis Cara Gervais, the actress's husband. And Chris, most of the time you think of financial planners, you think of guys with, in a suit and a tie. That's not Chris. And his approach, I think, is unique and fascinating.
Without life strategy, pulling out asking those questions and getting clients to actually take a look at their life more broadly, without that, we would just simply be trying to grow your wealth as much as possible. And that's cool, but not if you have a heart attack and not if you have broken relationships with your kids or, I'm making stuff up here, but that whole building wealth thing becomes a lot less valuable if these other areas, if you're not firing on, all cylinders in these other areas of life. So there are two kind of overarching strategies in wealth building. One is, well, what's your goal? My goal is to have as much as I can. I don't know, like what's as much as I can? That's my goal, is to optimize for as much as possible. And I actually think that's most human beings' default goal. And the problem with that is that as much as I can or as much as possible is not quantifiable. Well, the problem with it not being quantifiable, you can't put a number on as much as possible, is that it's not achievable. If you can't quantify it, you can't achieve it. And because it's not achievable, overall, it has a net negative impact on your happiness and your life.
Not the usual stuffed shirt financial guy. As we get ready to wrap up here, one of the lovely people we had who lives overseas, those are always fun to schedule and record, is a lady who does reaction videos and other teaching videos on YouTube by the name of Lolly Wren. And she goes online under the title, The Fairy Voice Mother. And originally from England, now living in Portugal. And Lolly was wonderful enough to join us and talk about some of that.
I was teaching one of my students called Bradley, and he said, I started watching these videos on YouTube where vocal coaches react to singers, and I found them really entertaining. And he said, because I'm a sort of vocal coach and I have a strange personality, he thought that I would be someone that people might want to watch doing that. And I was like, okay, well, what's the reaction video? I didn't know anything about it. It's something I didn't know existed. And so I made a YouTube channel. Obviously, I had to come up with a big brand behind it because it's just, I wanted to have a big old concept. And I started making videos, like just a few very strange videos, like, why do you sound better when you sing in the shower? And, just stuff like that. And then I was like, okay, it's time. I'm going to do a reaction video. And then all of a sudden, like, the subscriber count and the view count was crazy. And I got loads of suggestions, like, I want to see this, I want to see this. And so it was like the people have spoken,
And yes, Lolly is in regular conversation and communication, just that fascinating. She's also hilarious. Find The Fairy Voice Mother on YouTube and watch some of her music reaction videos. She is fun to watch. Didi Kiso is on here. Didi has been on the show several times now, sharing her own expertise about nonprofit work and knowledge and fundraising, but also joined with someone that she's working closely with, and I've had the opportunity now to meet and work with, by the name of Chris Kalenda, retired colonel who led 800 troops in Afghanistan, lost several of those troops, and has formed a nonprofit with Dee Dee's help and support and leadership to support veterans, and particularly to focus on those that served with him in Afghanistan. And we've had an opportunity to have not only have Dee Dee on the show several times, have Chris Kalenda on the show a couple of times, most recently in the fall, to talk about Veterans Day and how we can be better at reaching out to, supporting, and acknowledging and encouraging veterans.
By putting veterans on a pedestal and not knowing ways to connect with them, human being to human being, we create this division in our society. We reduce the levels of understanding, and veterans have a role to play in this as well.
I had the opportunity in November to join Dee Dee and Chris and a number of the veterans who served with them and others in Petaluma, California, for a reunion and a time of celebrating Veterans Day together. And that was amazing. Listen, again, there are so many people so many guests who have come on to Coffee Breaks that we just don't have time. We've already gone over. We just don't have time to acknowledge today, but in video recaps. But I do encourage you to go back, as I've been doing, and rewatch some of them. They are kind of fun to see. And I pick up new information when I go back and watch the videos of people that I talked to and had conversations with here online. I want to very quickly tell you what's coming up in the next few weeks, because I am going to be doing Coffee Breaks from Rhode Island this time. And so the next couple of weeks, we already have some things planned. So a fantastic and amazing author by the name of Hayden Shaw. He worked with the Stephen Covey organization for any number of years and is an expert in the areas of how the generations work together. He's written a couple of books that I've read. Sticking Points, which is about how different generations, when I read the book, 5 generations in the workplace at the same time, and the things that they struggle in understanding about each other and how that can be overcome. And then Generational IQ, which takes outside of the workplace to more social settings. Hayden's going to be on next week to talk about demystifying the generational disconnects that we deal with. And then a couple of weeks, we're going to have a return guest, another amazing artist, singer, songwriter. Craig Carruthers is going to be back with us again in a couple of weeks. And we're getting other things geared up for the coming weeks and months in 2024. So continue to follow along. And remember that we are in some other platforms if you want to go back and watch and listen or direct other people to them. And I really encourage you to make sure that you are subscribed to the YouTube channel, because that's going to help us get these wonderful guests and topics out in front of even more people. All right, listen, thank you. I'm going to ask you, if you've stuck around this long, stick around for a few more seconds, because in the closing credits today, even though we couldn't highlight every single guest from 2023, their names are all listed in the credits today. And so I want to encourage you to stick around and just be reminded of those. But I want to also remember you and say, once again, thank you so much for being a part of the Coffee Breaks family. For so many of you, every single time that we have been on in 2023, and sometimes even before that, you've been here with us, part of the conversation. So thank you for being part of it. We're launching a new year. We've got this entire 2024 ahead of us. Pivotal year in many ways, as we're coming into another election year. You all have voices. You all have things that you can do. So please do find a way to make a difference in your world this week. God bless you. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.